Well, good day to everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I think we have what I consider to be a really good topic. This topic seems to resonate with a lot of different people, and certainly it has been one that we have had good success with talking about and educating people over the last couple of months. So for those of you that are attending for the first time, I want to welcome you to our Manage Engine webinar, and for those of you that have been here before, welcome back to another webinar. My name is Derek Melber, and I will be your moderator and speaker for today. And we were going to be talking about privileged access today. Certainly one of the most sought after and hot topics in technology and security is trying to get a handle on who has privileged access. To give you a little bit of background on who I am the technical evangelist for the AD Solutions team here at Manage Engine. And what that means is I get the opportunity to present to thousands of administrators every single year, whether it be through a webinar like this, our user conferences, which we had a couple of weeks ago. I was at RSA last week, and next week I will be in London. So there's a lot of opportunity for me to get information from some amazing administrators and try to share that with you, and so that's what a lot of this is all about. I do want to give you some resources that you have. We don't have a ton of time together today, but I want to give you some resources that you can utilize after we're done. First of all, that is my email address. So please, if you have any questions about anything we talk about today, if you're having struggles with Active Directory or group policy or Windows security, please email me. I have been both an Active Directory and a group policy MVP over the last 17 years, and if I don't know the answer, usually I can find someone that does. So please utilize me as a resource for your Windows issues. I also want to point you to some online resources. These resources are free to you, things that we have worked pretty hard on to try to get you this information. So let me show you where you can go get this information. If you go to blogs.manageengine.com, you will hit a website that has quite a few blogs. Some of them are mine, some are others. But you can usually see mine because they say Active Directory right here, and there are some awesome posts that I put out here. I try to post weekly, but really what's happening is I try to post with regard to products as well as non-products, just general information. As I tour the world and I get questions from administrators, those questions usually become blogs because I figure if one person has the question, multiple people have the question. So that's how the blogs usually get generated. Also, I want to point you to something called our security hardening site. And really, today is kind of an offshoot of what the site is all about. So let me show you how to get to the site. If you come to our main landing page, manageengine.com, and you click on Active Directory, you'll see a drop-down occur. And in the lower right-hand corner, you see security hardening for Active Directory. And this security hardening site is just chock full of amazing information. Over the years, I have worked with both administrators and auditors, and this is a result of both of those. And you can see here at the bottom, this is really what I want to get you down to. And you see if you click on anything, there are multiple blogs and videos related to each of these topics. I would say that 90% of all of the Windows security audits that I've been a part of, over 90% of the controls are actually listed in here. So this actually could become a very good foundation for your audit program as well. So those are just some resources that I have available to you. For those of you that are outside of the US or will be traveling to other parts of the world, we will be starting our 2017 World Tour next week in London, as I said. From London, we will be in Dubai, Johannesburg, Munich, Dusseldorf, Stuttgart. Then we'll go to Spain and Portugal, do a swing through Australia. So that only gets us through about June. So we hit quite a few countries, quite a few cities around the world. We will be focusing on some USA cities in the fall, post-summer fall of 2017. So please keep an eye out on our events page or the emails that you get from us. They actually have some awesome information in there about events that are free to you to attend. So that gives you a little bit of information about me. Let's jump into the material. I would say this is one of my newest favorite topics, because really what this topic gives us is insight into the shotgun approach of privileges that are in our organization. So what I want to do is I want to give you some insights on why privileges are important, and then I want to talk about how we can track down privileges, monitor privileges, and report on privileges so that we know who is doing what and we know who has those privileges. So first and foremost, why is privileged access so important? Well, privileged access usually results in a data breach. Now, I'm not saying that the people that have the privileged access perform the data breach. What I'm saying is a data breach requires privileged access in most cases. So if we can control who has privileged access and limit that to only the people that we trust, we should reduce the data breaches. It just makes sense. But unfortunately, many of us work in an environment where security equals inconvenience, and inconvenience often drives the insecurity. So what we need to do is we need to come up with ways that we can still allow privileges to allow people to do their job, but restrict who can do that. And we want to make sure that it's not an inconvenience, but also we want to make sure people can only do what they say they should be able to do. Now, when it comes to breaches, what I'm going to show you here is it should be nothing new, right? If you go out today on Google or Yahoo or whoever, anywhere, CNN, Fox News, I don't care where you go, there's probably in the last week some type of a data breach. So these data breaches aren't unique, but the volume of the breaches is really astounding. The amount of information, the amount of user accounts, passwords, all the information that's being breached, just billions upon billions of records are being breached. And we need to get a handle on this. It's really getting out of control. It was 5 billion in 2013. Today, I don't even know if you can actually calculate the number, because so many people are being breached. So we really need to get a handle on this. Now, I was at Ignite last year and also RSA last year, and I saw a couple of different Microsoft presentations. And what I learned in these Microsoft presentations I thought was extremely valuable to share with you. Now, this is actually a slide, a graphic that I got from Microsoft. And this particular graphic tells us something that I think is extremely valuable for us to consider. Now, this is not a third-party graphic. This is a graphic from Microsoft. This was presented by Microsoft, okay? Look at the middle of your page there, the middle of that graphic. It is 146 days until an attacker is detected on your network. Now, I want you to think about that. That is 5 months. Attackers have infiltrated your environment, and they are there for 5 months before you detect them. So what are they gathering? What information is being acquired in that 5 months? Well, obviously it depends on what level of access they have. If they have domain admin access, then they get a lot of information. Now, the next slide is probably my favorite slide over the last 5 years. This is, again, a Microsoft graphic. Now, notice the green is research and preparation for an attack. This is the timeline. Obviously, I just said 150 days is the attacker is undetected. What I want you to notice is right between the green and the red. Look at the top. It says domain admin compromised from the first host being compromised, and this time frame is how much time? 1 to 2 days. Now, I hope I have your attention. This got my attention. It takes approximately 48 hours for an attacker, once they have one host compromised, to gain domain admin access over your Active Directory. How important is knowing privileged access now? Now, Microsoft, during their last presentations, have basically said that least privilege is the way we need to go. Now, least privilege is the concept that users, really even admins, but let's focus on users first, don't have any elevated privileges whatsoever, okay? So when they log onto their machine, when they use Word, Internet Explorer, Outlook, whatever application, they are a standard user. Now, why is this important? Well, I've been talking about this for over 10 years. Everyone says that Internet Explorer is so insecure. Well, Internet Explorer is only insecure when you give users privileges. Now, I want you to look at this third number here. If I can implement least privilege on a computer, 100% of the vulnerabilities affecting IE are eliminated. I'm hoping that you're grasping what I'm telling you here. This is important information. If you go and remove administrative privileges from your end users, nothing can attack them through Internet Explorer. This is from Microsoft. This is a Microsoft slide, okay? Now, Microsoft knows that least privilege, knows that privileged access is important. So Microsoft have been working on some technologies. This is also a Microsoft slide, and this is a list of their security technologies. If you notice on the left-hand side, it talks about privileged identities. Let me blow that up for you. And under privileged identities, they have two distinct technologies to help with this, JIT and GIA, just in time and just enough access. Now, over the last 3 years, since these two technologies have been implemented by Microsoft, every group that I'm in front of, I ask how many have actually heard of this and how many have actually implemented this. I would say that about 1%, and I think I'm upping that, probably about 0.5%, 1% of all administrators have even heard of these. I've had one company, one administrator raise his hand and say that he has implemented JIT and GIA. Now, what does that tell you about the technologies? For me, that tells me, well, first of all, Microsoft isn't doing a good job of marketing it, and when they do market and people find out about it, they're still not jumping on board. But this was presented 6 months ago by Microsoft, and this was their flagship technology to help protect privileged access. Well, the problems with this is you require a bastion forest. So that means whatever you have right now is not enough. You must install an additional Active Directory forest to get JIT and GIA to function. And you can only leverage it using PowerShell. There is absolutely no interface for this. Now, some people may say, well, PowerShell is an interface. I'm talking about something that's actually easy to use. Now, when I say please watch the video, if you go out to our website, this security hardening site, and you go to the description here, I have a link that says watch this video. Okay? That's the video I'm talking about. It's actually Microsoft talking about JIT and GIA. It's well worth your time. Please go review it. And I've never asked this before, but please give me your 2 cents on what you see. I would love to get feedback from all of you on what you see in that video and whether or not you think it's something that you could implement. We at ManageEngine don't think that JIT and GIA really is the ideal solution for most organizations. For some, it might be perfect. But for some organizations, we feel that you need to take a leaner approach, a more direct approach on getting control of privileged access. So what I want to do is I want to talk about tracking and securing privileges for users, groups, and service accounts. Those are 3 of the primary accounts and ways that we're giving privileges. So let's talk about privileged users, right? We must talk about the privileged users because if we don't know who they are, we've got to track them down, and then we've got to monitor them, okay? So when it comes to privileged users, first and foremost, we must talk about administrator, okay? We have a local administrator on every server in every workstation, and we have an Active Directory administrator, okay? Now, if I go back in here, and we're going to be jumping into my environment quite a bit, you're going to see that here I have an administrator account right there, okay? This is the administrator that I'm talking about. Well, at least by default, okay? Now, what we need to do is we need to get a handle on these accounts. We need to secure them. We need to protect them. We need to make sure that they're not being abused. These are the keys to the kingdom, okay? Not the kings to the kingdom, that's different, right? These are the keys to the kingdom. This is what that graphic was talking about, getting domain admin privileges. So we need to go in and make sure that we know who has access, okay? We must also go in and make sure that the privileged users have secure settings. Now, when it comes to getting privileged users and their secure settings, how do we do this easily, okay? Now, what I'm talking about is their password required? Is the password expire? Does the password have to be changed? What's the password last set time, okay? Now, if I go into the Microsoft tool, Active Directory users and computers, and I go to administrator, and I go to the account information, I can see if the user must set their password, if the password expires, all this information. But what about the last logon time? What about the last time they changed their password? That information is very difficult. You cannot get it from here. How do you get it? Well, using some coding, you could probably get it from PowerShell. But there is no one command to get that information using PowerShell. So what I'm encouraging you to do to help report on these accounts is get a tool that's designed to do this. Now, I'm going to show you a tool, AD Manager Plus. Click AD Reports, User Reports, right? And I can generate reports for all my users, and then I can go in and I can add all of the pertinent attributes that I want for those users in one view, okay? The password last set, the last logon time, right? So the logon time maybe already is in my list, okay? So what I'm saying here is that we need to get this information for our users to secure the data, okay? So in here also is whether its password expires, right? We need to know if the password expires. We need to know these settings, okay? So not only do we need it here, but we also need to get information about the users and how they're functioning, right? So if I go back here to my user reports, right, so I have real last logon time. This is going to allow me to go through the list. If I go back to my reports, right, I can look at account expired users, users that actually had their account already expire. So what we've done is we've broken out detailed reports for you as well. You need to secure your accounts, those accounts that have privileges, okay? Now, we also need to track privileged users. This includes you. Your account must be tracked because if someone is using your account, you need to know that because you need to cover yourself and protect your own account. So we can't be blind to this. How do we do this? Well, we want to monitor logons. We want to monitor logons, success and failure, because failures tell us when someone's trying to hack in, of accounts that have privileged access. Now, if we go to the Microsoft way of doing this, I'm going to have to go in here to Event Viewer, right? In Event Viewer, I'm going to have to go to my security log, and how am I going to filter 150,000 events to see when Derek has logged on? I just don't think you're going to be able to search through this very efficiently. Also, this log only goes back a couple of days. So I lost information. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to go into a tool like AD Audit Plus that tracks behavior, and I want to be able to go in and look at user logon reports, right? So I want to look at user logon activity for certain users, right? So I can come in here and I can add, Derek, right? And then when I add Derek, basically all I'm saying is, what is the last logon for Derek? Now, I don't want to be dramatic, too dramatic, but look at the power of this information. I mean, I'm going back in time telling you when these users logged on, individual users and their logon, success or failure. It's going to tell me the failure if it's a failure. Tell me you can get that from here, right? But the power of tracking this becomes extremely important. Password changes. I want to know when my users have changed their passwords. So I'm going to come back in here to AD Audit Plus, and I am going to look at account management, no, user management, recently password set users, user-based password changes, right? So I can come in here and over the last whatever days determine, right, the last 6 months, determine users that are changing their password. All right, recently password changed users. This is powerful information. It tells me who made the change. So being able to see information that's going through becomes powerful. I can track Active Directory actions, creation of users by individual users, ACL, the access control list changes. And I can set alerts for real-time notifications, right? So for example, let's go back in here, and I want to go back to AD Manager Plus, and I want to pull a report of all users. Now, when we look at this, right here is administrator, okay? You will notice that administrator is not the original default administrator. And how do I know that? Well, the SID is not 500. The SID 500 now belongs to James Bond. See it right there, 500? So I have renamed administrator to James Bond and then created a new account called administrator. Why did I do that? For a couple of reasons. One is I want to create a honeypot. This administrator account is absolutely not granted any privileges. So that means if someone tries to log on as administrator, fails or succeeds, if they succeed, they have no privileges. If they fail, I'm going to track that. And why do I want to track that? Well, over here in AD Audit Plus, I have a report set up to track any changes to administrator, okay? So here, if I have somewhere, I know I have this report, my reports, administrator 500 modifications, okay? So if administrator or James Bond is ever modified, I am going to get that information. It's going to show me that information here. You'll see here the password was set, right? User account was changed. I have all the information for administrator and James Bond in this report. I can also, because I have AD Audit Plus reports, I can also look at user logon reports, logon activity. I can also set up alerts for any report. So that means that because I have reports, I can be alerted through an email in real time if administrator or James Bond logs on. That's power. That's knowledge. Knowledge in this case is power. And if anyone tries to log on as administrator, I've just caught them because I have a honeypot for that. Okay? So this really is powerful. Okay? Now I see it says something about, can I check for the source of the logon failure? Absolutely. Right? So back here, when I go to logon failures, and I have, let's see if I have any in the last 1 year, which I should. it's going to go through and it's going to tell me all the information that I need about the logon failures. Come on. It's digging through the information. Dig, dig, dig. I know they have some failures. Let me put in the last 6 months. The last 6 months, apply. Come on. Of course, today, what is today? Today's Thursday. The demo gods are cursing me. Nope, there we go, okay? So here is my, it's telling me who tried to authenticate, where it came from, the host name, all the information is here, okay? This is power. This is power. This is unbelievable power that you have, okay? So that answers the question that someone just brought up is, can I find out where the failure came from? Of course you can, okay? So that gives you an idea of what you can do, right? Not just tracking and monitoring, but setting things up, making sure that you are creating a secure environment and tracking those, okay? Well, what about privileged groups? Well, we all know that privileged groups can cause a lot of problems because I can nest groups. I can put groups on ACLs. So I want to make sure that I know who has access in privileged groups. And we want to look for obvious things, right? I pulled this off. It says right here, domain admins, domain users as part of domain admins. Now, I don't want to do a poll because I know some of you have seen this. But how many of you have seen this where someone took the lazy approach and just said, every user is a domain admin? Nah, they won't know the difference. Sure they will. Users are going to try things. So what we need to do is we need to go in and track who has access, secure who has access. We're going to do this first and foremost locally. Every server and every workstation has a local administrators group and a local backup operators group. You need to go and pull the members of these groups, verify them, and make sure that they're correct. Okay? You also need to go into Active Directory and do this. For every domain that you have, this is a pretty thorough list of all of the default privileged groups that you have in Active Directory. Every domain that you own, you must do this for. You must also do it for your forest, the schema admins and the enterprise admins. Okay? So you're going to have to go through, and for all of your default privileged groups, per domain and per forest, get the members and then configure them correctly. But that's not the entire list. This is the easy list. The difficult list comes when you must also look at your application and services groups. SQL, Exchange, VMware, SharePoint, whatever you have installed that is a domain network-wide service or application, you must go in, track those groups, and then find out who has membership in those groups. But you're still not done. Default, application and service groups, finally, custom groups, maybe the most difficult ones. Okay? These are groups that you created yourself, and then you granted privileges somehow, some way. I don't know how you granted privileges. Hopefully you know. But we must go into all these groups and find out the group members. How do we do that? Well, how do we find out group members using Microsoft tools? Well, here's Active Directory users and computers. Here's the administrators group. How do we find out who has membership in the administrators group? Well, we double click it, we go to members, and we can get a list. Now, can we somehow get the list output to a file? Not really. Microsoft doesn't provide that. We can take a screen capture. What if it's off the list? What if the list is too long? Well, that means you're going to have to scroll because this screen does not resize. But what about domain admins? Oh, so you're going to have to go into domain admins and go those members. If there's a group in here, you're going to have to do the same thing. Microsoft doesn't have a great GUI tool to get you groups recursively down through group membership. Now, you could use PowerShell for this, right? So if I go into PowerShell and I do a get AD group member, administrators, recursive, it's going to give me a list of all users, even that are in nested groups, right? Well, this isn't friendly. Could you imagine trying to give this to an auditor or your boss? They don't understand what all this is, so then you have to massage the data. I say just use a tool that's designed to do this. AD Manager Plus is a tool that's designed to give you group reports, right? Group members. Over here, I want detailed group members for administrators, users, and groups. There's a list of my users, and I can export this to a PDF to give to my boss. This is valuable information. This is readable information. This is easy. I don't think anyone on this call can say that PowerShell is easy. It's powerful, but it's not easy. We need tools that are going to make us efficient and get us to the end answer faster, okay? So that's how you go in and you get reports on group members recursively. Now that you have that, now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go in and track the privileged group modifications, right? So what I suggest that you do is you take your list of the 3 different types of groups. Remember I mentioned 3. Default, I mentioned default groups, I mentioned application service groups, and I mentioned custom groups. You go into AD Audit Plus, and you are going to go to our group modification report, which this is a default report right here, modified admin groups, and you're going to edit it, and you're going to add all of your groups to this report. Then you go set an alert for it. This is how simple this is. I mean, click, 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 and you're done, right? Modified admin groups. Modified admin groups. I can even send an email. So that means if someone, right, decides to go in and modify the enterprise admins by adding a member, right? Let's say someone goes in and adds, let's see, right? They add ACE, right? Okay. As soon as that's added, in your environment, how do you know that someone's added to the enterprise admins group? I think I know the answer. You don't, right? Well, I know because I get a real-time alert. Again, I don't want to be dramatic, but that is powerful stuff. Imagine you get an email every time that changes. Any of your privileged groups, if they change just by setting up first a report and then an alert, you can receive a real-time email that that changed. That's the power of using the right tool. Service accounts, okay? We talked about users, we've talked about groups. What about service accounts? Service accounts almost always have privileges. You need to go in and make sure that your service accounts are configured properly and tracked, okay? Now, service accounts are associated with Windows services as well as other services. I'm going to focus on Windows services today, all right? It can be a local, it could be a domain account. I need to know which one it is. I need to be able to report. Now, I could go into my computer, go to services.msc, and then connect to different computers, right? Connect to different computers, and I could get a listing of all of my service accounts for each computer. That seems like a lot of work. We have a free tool that does it for you. Let me back out of here. If you go to our free tools, okay, this is downloadable from our website, go to Service Account Management, Service Accounts, pick the machines that you want to actually go in and pull service accounts from, and then go get service accounts. No agent is required. It's using credentials, and it goes to all the machines that you've selected, and it pulls back the service accounts from those machines. There's going to be a lot of built-in type things. We don't want those, so we give you a filter to only look at those accounts that are here. Then you can export it as a CSV. Once you have a list from all of your servers, all of your Windows service accounts, you then go back into AD Audit Plus and you create a custom report. Let me show you how easy this is. It's a user. I have a service account modification. I created this report myself. All I did was I said, if the user is modified and if any of these things change, right? And then I list my service accounts from the free tool. That's it. And then you set an alert for it, right? So now I have an alert for service account modifications. What this results in is that if someone decides to go into a service account and disable a service account, immediately, watch how fast this tracks it, okay? I go back to my interface and I already have an alert that it was disabled. Tell me that's not powerful. Tell me this would not change your life as an admin. You now are getting emails when any admin logs on, when someone logs on as administrator of the 500 SID, when someone modifies a privileged group, when someone does anything to a service account, you get an email. You now have complete insight into what's occurring. Now, you will often see, I was just at RSA last week, you will often see that organizations say the alert is too late, someone already did something. In this case, I disagree. You do not want to go and disable a service account with an action of disabling the service account just because you see activity. You need to evaluate the activity, but you have to know things are occurring first. That's where you need to go in and you need to set up the environment securely. That's the first and foremost piece. And then once you have all of the security in place, you just need to track the actions. Because these accounts should do these things. But you're looking for anomalies. You're looking for things that don't look right. You're looking to make sure that things are kept up and running. No denial of service attacks. So really what I've covered today is the importance of privileged access. It is not the approach that we at ManageEngine take, that you should set up some environment that when so many logons occur in a short amount of time, you cut off the privileges to that user. What if it's a domain admin trying to get something done quickly and it just shows up that way? You don't want to cut off that access. You want to track the access. But you want to track the access of accounts that supposedly have privileges. But you should only have accounts that have privileges that should have privileges. That requires reporting, analysis, and configuration. That's why I'm showing you the way to report on these things. It takes time, but our security hardening site helps you with that. See how it all kind of ties together? So with this, I've shown you a way for you to go and report on users, groups, and service accounts, the correct way to configure users, groups, and service accounts, and monitor and track and even alert on users, groups, and service accounts. Now, where do you go from here? I strongly encourage you to fully take advantage of this website, okay? This website, the security hardening site, is awesome, okay? Again, to get to it, you go to Active Directory. In the drop down, you go to security hardening, and down here, it talks about how to do all these things I just showed you. Second of all, I strongly encourage you to go to our website, go to Active Directory Management and Auditing, and download our tool, right? I wish I could do a contest. I want to know how fast someone can download, install, and configure our tools, because normally it takes less than 10 minutes. It's awesome. Fully blown 30-day trial of our tools, okay? If you have any other questions, email me. Email our events team. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's actually my team members on the back end helping me answer questions. So this is a seamless webinar. and we can actually get you back to working as fast as possible. I want to thank them for helping me answer those questions. Email them. All of us on the AD Solutions team, our #1 vision is to help you become more efficient and help you secure your environment. That's really our job, okay? Now, I know we have some other webinars that are coming up. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully you've got something out of it. That's my email. Email me. Go to our events page, see when we're going to have more events, especially the seminars. I'm hoping to see many of you on our seminars in late 2017. With that, I want to thank all of you for attending. I want to thank the people in the back end that you can't hear helping me answer questions. And until the next time we meet, whether it be in a webinar or live at a conference or one of our seminars, I hope you have a great day. And until then, thank you and talk to you later.